we're a couple of minutes out. So how about if anyone wants to put in the chat any particular points that you're looking to get out of this particular training? It's all about AI visuals. Dustin's the founder of Magai, as you know. He was attendees from last week's talk didn't want you to go, Dustin. They didn't want you to go. So we're expecting a great session today as well. But if there's anything specific around visuals and video that you're interested in, then let us know. Pop it in the chat.
Actually, now that I've been thinking about it, I haven't been very creative. I make a few images for putting on my blog posts or whatever, and I do some little, very simple videos. Dustin, what's the longest video you've tried to create out of the AIs?
I've done 10-second videos,
Nice.
but they tend to kind of go off the rails.
Okay.
So I stick to 5 seconds, and that seems to be the best possible scenario where you're going to get something usable.
Okay.
Yeah.
In painting in SVD. What's SVD? I don't know.
I'm not quite sure.
SVD.
Stable video, maybe. There could be one abbreviation.
What does SVD stand for? One thing that, from my perspective, I've tried to create like a little storybook for children, and it's very difficult to get images of the same character within the story. So you get, even if you use the same prompt. So I'd be interested to hear your take on that, how that might be possible to get multiple images of the same character in different scenes for a little story. The consistency. If that's
Yeah,
possible.
we can definitely talk about that.
Wow. Okay. Right.
Quick illustrations.
Yeah, we're on the hour now, so we can make a start. Look at what we're creating: designs, logos, print on demand business, book illustrations. Okay, good. Well, so we have Dustin with us today, and we're looking forward to some insightful expert advice around AI visuals, whether be it images and video. I'm not going to say too much more. I'm going to leave the floor to you, Dustin, and over to you.
All right. Well, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. We could cover a whole plethora of subjects, but I think what I'm going to limit our discussion to today is really understanding the different capabilities of different models. Just like different people have different skills, different models are better at some things, not so great at other things. I think we might have touched on that last week with the LLMs, but it's even more apparent when it comes to image and video, particularly images. It's just quite obvious. Some image models are good at some things and not good at other things. So we'll go over that. We'll go over how to write a prompt for image AI, what makes a good prompt for image AI, and I'll even share a quick and easy tool inside of Magai that will make it so that you don't have to really know what makes a good image prompt, but it's good to know anyways. And then we'll kind of go through some of these things that people are mentioning in the chat here. So first and foremost, we'll go through. I'll open up my screen here. Let me find the right one. There we go. Into Magai's image editor page. It's separate from the chat page, even though you can, of course, do images inside of the chat, and we give you that capability. But if you want sort of a dedicated space to just work on images, we do have this editor page. So first and foremost, on the right-hand side here is where you'll find your tools, your ability to type a prompt, just like in the chat LLM, and then your ability to choose an image or video model. We have many to choose from. Each one comes with a certain degree of capabilities. So you'll notice in this column here, it tells you exactly what capabilities they have. Most of them are text to image, meaning you can input text and the AI model will output an image. Some also have, in addition to text to image, some might have the image to image, which means you can upload an image as a part of your prompt. So you can have both the text and an image to influence the output that the model will give you. And then we have some video models as well, some text to video, some image to video, and a mixture of both along the way. So where to begin? Every model that we have in Magai sort of has its own speciality. And I'm a big fan of the flux models, but I'm also a big fan of ideogram, which is a very versatile model. I also really love Leonardo, and I would say amongst the text to image models, DALL-E 3 would probably be lowest on my totem pole, although Auraflow is pretty good at some things. It is a rather limited model. But let's start with the one most people know, DALL-E 3. That's probably the one I think the majority of people have heard of because it's made by OpenAI, OpenAI being the creators of ChatGPT. And it is a fairly versatile model. So I'll start with a cat playing cards. That's my go-to for image generation. We type our prompt to the AI model. We can pick a size if we want a specific size. And some models will give us the option to add a style to just further inform the AI of what it is we're looking to get out of the output. So I'll just say vivid for the fun of it, and I'll hit the generate button. And so most of these image models you can use as basically as that. Just enter some text of what you're looking for. Oh no, of course it's going to fail during a live demonstration. Let's try that again. Always during a live demo. But the idea, you tell it what you're looking for, maybe select a size and maybe a style, and then it hopefully gives you something close to what you're looking for. And here we have a cat playing cards. A very cartoony cat with some very cartoony cards. And very quickly, once you start to experiment with these models, you will find that they are good at different things. If I do the same prompt with the Flux model, you'll see it comes up with something very different. Some models do take longer than others. And oftentimes the ones that take longer tend to be of higher quality because they're just consuming more processing power. So here we have a very realistic and photorealistic version of a cat playing with some cards.
Wow.
And so those are the sort of the basic things you need to understand. Text, model, and then maybe some additional options like size. Now, there are some models that have more advanced settings that you can sort of tweak and adjust to get a different output. Now, some of these models have what's called a seed value. Now, a seed value, the easiest way to understand what a seed value is think of it like a set of coordinates. When an AI model generates an image, it's pulling from its massive data set of the visual association of words, and it's kind of pinpointing different aspects of your prompt and trying to figure out what that looks like. And what it comes up with ends up being a combination of all this math that it does, associating the text with the visual. And when it's finished doing that, it assigns, some models assign what's called a seed value. This is a numeric value that basically identifies what data points and how it came up to the visual conclusion that it came to, right? And so that's what a seed value is. And so the reason for having an input here to put in a seed value is, let's say you generated an image and you liked the style of that image and you want to replicate that style. You can use the seed value from that image, put it into the model, and then that model will use that same sort of coordinates to generate the next image, and it'll have a very similar style. And it won't be identical, but it will pull from similar data points. Is the best way to explain it. So that's what a seed value is. Now, some models also allow you to use images to enhance the output. So just like putting in a prompt that says, I want this, The image input will allow you to sort of give it a visual to latch onto. And just like your text prompt, it will use that to influence the output. Now, it's not going to be again, it's not going to be identical, but it's just going to be just like your text prompt. The AI is interpreting it and giving you, what it believes you're looking for, based on both the image and the text that you gave it. Now, inference steps is something that most people never have to deal with, because most of these models are getting rid of this setting. They're sort of making this decision for you. But inference steps represents how many passes the AI takes at refining the image. So the way that it technically works, these AI image models, they start with a base image of just, think of it like static. If you've ever seen like an old time TV where there was no cable and nothing connected, it had just a bunch of dots everywhere, a bunch of static, or noise is the technical term for it. And if you've ever used a photo editing tool, sometimes they have noise reduction filters where you can kind of filter out some of the little specks and stuff that make their way into digital photos, and you can reduce that noise. And so the way that AI works is it starts with an image that's just nothing but noise, just a bunch of just dots and nothing, no real image whatsoever, just static and noise. And it takes multiple inference steps to sort of refine and focus in and denoise the image based on what it thinks the pixels in that image should look like based on your prompt. So every inference step it takes is sort of refining the image and adding detail and adding structure and removing that noise, step after step after step. And so some of these models will allow you to adjust how many inference steps the model takes when it processes your request. The less inference steps it takes, the less passes it will take at refining the detail and the structure. The more inference steps, the more passes it will take to increase the structure and to increase the detail and sort of refine the image. Now, that doesn't mean more inference steps is necessarily better, because what you'll find is if the AI takes too many inference steps, it might add a whole lot of detail that probably shouldn't be there, like extra wrinkles or extra limbs, extra noses, extra eyes. It might start adding in things that you probably didn't want to be there. So it's not necessarily a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing. Likewise, if you were to reduce the number of inference steps, it would take less passes and thereby probably be less detailed or less crisp in a lot of areas. So again, not necessarily a bad thing, but just kind of depending on what you're looking for, you may need more or less detail. And of course, you can kind of play with this back and forth. Do one with lower inference steps and then try to generate another image with more inference steps and see which one kind of comes out better. Some models also have what's called prompt guidance. Now, prompt guidance is the idea that how closely do you want the AI to adhere to your text prompt? So in a simple prompt like this, a cat playing cards, there's a lot of things in this visual that I didn't mention, right? I didn't mention what kind of cat it was. I didn't mention if I wanted it to be photorealistic or illustrative or a painting. I didn't mention that a cat's sitting on a table, right? There's a lot of things that I did not include in this prompt that the AI had to make the assumption to create, right? It had to assume those things into the visual. And so if I were to set my prompt guidance all the way down to 1, I'm basically telling the AI, don't make any assumptions, just stick to my prompt exactly as the words that are in my prompt, and have basically no creativity to draw outside the lines. Whereas if I were to increase the prompt guidance to higher, you're basically giving the AI more and more free will, so to speak, to go outside of your prompts, to make assumptions that maybe you didn't include in your prompt, and giving it that more creative freedom to do that. I tend to stay in the realm of lower prompt guidance, between 3 and 4, maybe 5 if I am really adventurous, because my prompts are usually very specific and very detailed, and we'll talk about that later. But if it were my personal recommendation, I would say anywhere between 3 and 4 is typically what you want, especially if you have a vision. But if you don't have really a vision of what you're trying to get, you might want to up the prompt guidance to let the AI be a little more free. Safety tolerance, this is really limited to the Flux models. This just kind of mitigates, if you want it, every now and then the images might come out a little not safe for work. And that's not necessarily intentional. Sometimes the AI just makes a mistake when it shouldn't. And so if you want to avoid that as much as possible, you really want to, put that safety tolerance all the way down. You need one being, not even any room for something that could not be, family friendly. And if you want a higher safety tolerance where you really don't care, if it accidentally throws in a shirtless man, then you would put that safety tolerance all the way up. And we have other models too that have different settings, I guess is the word. So we covered sort of Dolly and Flux, which have very straightforward, pick a model, pick a size, and maybe a style. And then Flux, which has some advanced options here. Leonardo, as a model, has an additional option on here, which is a submodel. So Leonardo in itself is a company that actually produces not just one model, but they have a bunch of different specialized models. So they're a provider of many different models, and each model is sort of good at a very specific thing. And so when you click on, when you click on the model underneath, once Leonardo is selected, you'll see a number of additional models that you can choose from. And each one, when you hover over them, it's going to give you an idea of what their specialty is. And so some of them are more general than others, whereas some might say, this is really good. Leonardo Lightning in particular is great at photorealism and painterly styles, whereas Keynote XL is more cinematic. Likewise, the Anime XL one is good at, you probably guessed it, anime style illustrations and so forth. So each one kind of has a different use case that will produce better results for that specific style. And even after picking your submodel, you can also pick from a number of styles that will, again, enhance the stylistic approach that the model uses to produce your image. Leonardo also has some additional advanced options as well, and one we haven't sort of talked about yet is the negative prompt. Now, in most advanced models, the more current models, you don't really need the negative prompt, but every now and then it is helpful. Let's say that you have the AI generate this cat playing cards, and you didn't want any queen of clubs in there. So if that's the case, you don't want any queen of clubs, then you could say something like, queen of clubs. This is sort of a space where you can add keywords that relate to things that you do not want in the image. So the prompt itself is what you do want in the image. The negative prompt would be what you do not want in the image. And again, we have seed here, and we have the ability to add image inputs if we like. And we will go down to just a few more. No, actually, I think that covers all of them. Ideogram, very much like Flux and Dolly in the sense that it gives you just a size and a style. But something that I really love about Ideogram is that it has one particular style application called design. And somebody asked about this, I think in the chat, is can you have it come up with logos? And what I love about Ideogram is their design style will do really well with coming up with things like logos, things that are graphical in nature, website designs, social media graphics, things that have sort of this graphic designer sort of style to them or application. So unlike any of the other models, Ideogram seems to have really done a good job at this particular style application. You can also do things like anime and render, but some of the other models have that as well. I haven't yet seen an AI model that does design applications, graphic design, quite as good as Ideogram. Some other noteworthy ones on the list from an image standpoint, Imagine 3 is Google's new model. It just released it last week. they gave the public access to it. You know, some people have had private access and beta access for a while, and now they finally released it to the public, and it is quite good. I must say it's one of the better models. But doesn't have a whole lot of options in terms of, you know, image input or stylization. You just have to really do a great job at prompting it to get what you want. And there's another cat playing cards. Let's see, one more here. So stable diffusion. Most of the image models that we have in Magi, in fact, most of the image models, AI image generation models in the world, were made using what's called stable diffusion. This is an open source code base, for lack of a better term. It's an image model, but it's sort of like a foundational image model that others can take and sort of expound upon and add their own custom training and their own custom interfaces and influence how that model behaves themselves. So stable diffusion was really one of the first ones on the scene to put this out into the world. And so we do actually allow you to access the sort of the baseline model, Stable Diffusion 3.5, that most of these other image models are built on. So you get to start with that foundation, and it has, you know, some of these advanced features as well, and of course the sizes. But there are also 3 different applications of Stable Diffusion that are more specialized that you can choose from. So Stable Sketch, which is just a version of Stable Diffusion, which allows you to upload a sketch of something, and it will turn that sketch into a real image. It'll generate an image based on that sketch. It has a version called Stable Structure, which essentially will allow you to upload a structural photo, say a living room, and allow you to design that or rather restyle that living room, maybe different wallpaper, different colors of the furniture, different paintings on the wall, etc. But it'll maintain the structure of that living room. So the layout will be exactly the same, but you can actually tell it to design everything within that layout differently. And then we have what's called Stable Style. Stable Style is like Stable Structure, but the exact opposite. So you upload a photo that has a style that you really like, and then you can then have it apply that style to whatever structure that you would want to have it apply to. So that's sort of the top level view of all of our image models. And let me get out of this view real quick. So then we have video models, and video models are far fewer than the image models, because the real reality is whenever I'm considering adding something to Magai, I mean, I could literally add hundreds of AI models, but for me, I would rather not pollute or dilute the options inside of Magai unless it's really something that I think is useful. Up till about 3 or 4 months ago, maybe 6 months ago at this point, I really didn't think any of the video generators out there were that good. They were interesting, they were novel, they were fun, but they weren't usable. And when I say usable, I really mean they weren't something that I would use for my business and actually put out into the world. And so until the video models out there reached a level where I thought, yes, somebody in Magic would definitely use this for a real world scenario, I chose to leave them out. And so now we've added a handful that I do think are good enough to get you some type of video output that you would actually use for, you know, business or work purposes. It wouldn't just be for, you know, pure entertainment purposes. So the first one on the list here is Kling, and in my humble opinion, it is the best video model on the market by far. I've tried Sora, I've tried VO2, which will be coming to Magai very soon, Google's new video model. I've tried Runway, and we have Runway in here as well. We'll go over that. I've tried Minimax. I've tried dozens of video models, and I have yet to find one that produces better video consistently and more reliably than Kling. And well, this is I won't spend our time generating because these videos do take a long time. And so we'll just be sitting here waiting for a while, but I'll just kind of go over some of them real quickly here. So just like the video or image models, video models can also, some of them have different size options that you can choose from. And you may or may not be able to add images as the input. Some of them actually require an image to start with in order to generate. So they'll actually take your image and add motion to it, turn it into a video. But not all of them do that. So Kling, I would say, is the best. It allows for both text to video and image to video. Then we have LumaDream, which was the front runner for a long time. Very good model, and it does only text to video, so you can't use any image influence in generating these videos. LumaRay 2 is sort of the next generation of Luma. It is the most advanced version, and is pretty good in terms of reliably coming out with good stuff. And it does have a few different size options. LumaRay 2 also has the ability for you to loop videos. So if you wanted to create sort of a looping video, like an animated GIF, you could do that with LumaRay 2. Minimax is another up-and-comer, I would say. It can produce really good video. It's just not quite as reliable as the other ones. And it does take a long time to generate and will not give you any size options. Runway was probably for a long time the front runner, I guess, probably one of the most recognizable names in AI video. Very good model. It only does image to video, so it requires an image to start with in order to produce video, and gives you two size options, landscape or portrait. The portrait being more of the 9:16, almost like the like a phone size vertical video. And it does require you to have images to start with. And those are our video models. Oh, and we also have, Leonardo Motion. So Leonardo Motion was actually the first video model we integrated with because we were already integrated with Leonardo, and they also only do image to video. So you have to start with an image and then it can turn it into a video. And with Leonardo in particular, you have to start with a Leonardo generated image in order for its motion generative tool to convert it into a video. So that's sort of the top level view. Now, if I were to break down sort of what strengths and weaknesses each of these have. So DALL-E is probably the most versatile in terms of it can do a lot of things pretty good. It seems to excel at more artistic, 3D rendered, cartoony, illustration type images. One thing that is absolutely not good at is photorealism. So no matter how hard you try, good luck trying to get DALL-E to produce something that looks good as a photograph. Almost every time you'll be able to tell, oh yeah, that was made by DALL-E and it does not look real at all. But if you want something that's a cartoon, an illustration, maybe look like a Pixar character, DALL-E 3 is actually really good at that. And even painting styles. So abstract paintings or impressionistic paintings, DALL-E 3 is actually really, really good at that kind of stuff. But never trust it with a photorealistic because you're just gonna get frustrated real fast. Now the Flux family of models, they tend to be really, really good at photorealism. So they're sort of on the opposite spectrum of DALL-E in that photorealism is their jam. They are exceptionally good at it. I tend to gravitate towards Flux 1.1 Pro Ultra. This model produces the highest quality and the highest resolution. Does take a little bit longer to generate because the images tend to be bigger, but it is ultimately like the absolute best. I mean, I'm blown away by some of the stuff that it comes out with. Ideogram, like I said, very versatile. It can do photorealism pretty well, but I tend to only use it, again, going back to the design style, because I haven't found an image model that does logo generation or graphical generation quite like it does. But it's actually quite good at all this other stuff as well. Realism and 3D renders, anime, does those styles very well. I haven't really tested it a lot with painting styles, but yeah, like I said, I kind of just use it for the design stuff. Imagine 3, photorealism seems to be something it's really good at. Haven't seen it produce a whole lot of really great painting styles. But it only came out last week too, so I haven't really gotten it tested on all the different styles out there. Leonardo, depending on the model, obviously, if you have a very specific style in mind, it does really help to choose a model that is specifically designed for that. I do a lot of cinematic stuff, so I found that the Leonardo Kino XL works really well for a lot of my purposes. But again, going back to photorealism, Flux sort of outshines it in that area, so I tend to do most of everything with Flux. Stable diffusion I don't actually use a lot anymore because it does require quite a bit of articulation in the prompt. Which is fine if you really do, but I found it's kind of more work to try and get the best thing out of it. But again, I tend to do more photorealism, so Flux is just the way to go. But stable diffusion works really well for a lot of people in some particular styles or outputs that they're looking for. So with that said, if there are any questions about any of the given models, let me check real quick to make sure there's no comments that I'm missing. If I can find this Zoom window again, that would be great. Here we go. Just do a quick check on the chats here. Okay, we'll talk about in painting. Okay. Comic book. Okay, same character. We'll talk about that later. No Midjourney. Yes, it's probably the #1 question I get asked. We do not have Midjourney because Midjourney is hostile towards developers in that they will not allow anyone to integrate with their tool at all whatsoever. No negotiations, no contracts, no deal, nothing. They want to keep their image model to themselves. And I have some feelings about that. But suffice to say, they not only are anti working with other people, they don't want to play well with others, they will also send their lawyers after you if you find a way to integrate their tool without their permission. There have been several companies who claimed that they had Midjourney access in their third-party app, and Midjourney sent their lawyers after them and shut them down real quick. So we do not have Midjourney. We will not have Midjourney unless Midjourney decides they want to play well with others. But they are probably one of the best image models out there in terms of versatility. A lot of versatility out of Midjourney. So it's unfortunate that they don't want anybody to have access but themselves. And that looks like all the questions. So I'm going to keep rolling through this. If any other questions come up, feel free to put them in the chat. But let's talk a little bit about prompting, because in our age of design, or in design, in our age of AI, the people who are able to articulate better tend to do better with what they get out of AI. The old adage is garbage in, garbage out. The better you are at articulating what you want, the better result you're going to get from the AI. And that is very true when it comes to large language models, and it is very true also with image or video models. And so even though you saw here that I used a very simple prompt to generate images, the challenge here is if you have a particular vision in your mind, something that you're looking for, and you can kind of roughly see it in your mind's eye, and the AI comes up with something that's totally different from that, it can be very, very frustrating, right? You're like, that's not what I had in mind. That's not the words that I use. Well, it really comes down to how good are you at articulating the details needed to make sure that the AI produces exactly what you're looking for. And really, when you're crafting a prompt for an AI image generator, you need 3 key elements. Okay, this is probably where you want to take some notes. The first thing you need is subject. What is the subject of your image? The subject often means the person that is the focal point, or the object that is the focal point, the animal that is the focal point. Whatever the focal point of that image is, You need to detail out that subject as detailed as possible. So we'll use our example of the cat here. So this is an orange tabby cat. I love cats. We have 2 of them running around here in the background somewhere. But if I wanted an orange tabby cat, then I should definitely articulate that. I shouldn't just say a cat playing cards. I should probably say an orange tabby cat playing cards. And if I really wanted to get detail, I might say, well, I wanted an orange tabby cat with yellow eyes. And maybe I wanted him to be a kitten. So not just a cat, but a kitten. So the more detail you can use to describe that subject, the better. Because again, you don't want the AI guessing or making assumptions that had nothing to do with what you had in your mind. If you can see it in your mind, try to articulate as best you can that subject, because the subject is probably the most important thing in the image, right? Start with the most descriptive version of that subject as you can. So number 1, subject. Number 2, setting. Where is this subject? Are they in a dark room with a big window to their left, or are they in a spaceship in outer space? You know, the AI needs to know where to put this subject. And if you don't tell it where to put that subject, it's going to make it up for you. And so if I were to want it to be in a lounge, then I would put in a lounge. But again, you want to think about, well, what else is in that setting? Where's the lighting coming from? So big window to the left of the frame with sunlight pouring in. Those would be really great descriptive words to add to this photo. So again, thinking through, if you don't mention it, the AI has to figure it out on its own. So be as detailed about that setting as you want, and not just the environment, but maybe the lighting conditions and any even any sort of emotional qualities of that environment. Dark, moody, or bright and happy. Things that can kind of describe the setting of that image. Always going to be very helpful. And the last thing that you want to consider. So we've got subject, setting. We want style to be the third and final section of your prompt. And style refers to, is this a photograph? Is this a Renaissance painting? Is it a pixel art? Is it a 3D rendering CGI image? What style do you want the AI to use? Do you want it to be something like a Claude Monet, or do you want it to be something like a Banksy? If you have a particular art style in mind, it's also good to not just reference the style, but maybe reference some artists that it can take inspiration from. Very, very great use case of this is, one of the things that I love producing for our Magai blog is I really like creating robots, really futuristic robots in like an office scene, but I don't want it to look like dystopian or, some of the stereotypical robot things you might see. I really love Wes Anderson films. And if you've ever seen a Wes Anderson film, they have a very particular aesthetic. It's all very clean and very pastel-y. And so I want to leverage that kind of an aesthetic in my image generation. So I'll mention in the style of a Wes Anderson film, in the style area of the prompt. And so you really can get, again, as detailed as you want to really paint that picture for the AI. And the better you do, the more it's going to be able to adjust to what it is you envision for that visual. Now I'll say a little bit more about the style. So when it comes to picking a style, let's say you wanted it to look like a Renaissance painting, adding details about maybe what type of brush was used for that painting style, or what sort of canvas is used for that style. The more deeper you can go on that style, the better. Because it will absolutely inform, and the AI it's been trained on billions and billions of images, so it knows what a acrylic on canvas looks like versus what a watercolor on drywall looks like. I don't know what you do with what. Obviously, I'm not a painter. with photorealism. So if you wanted something to be a photograph, one thing that you might drill down into is, say, a photo taken with a Canon 5D camera, and maybe even go so far as mentioning the type of lens that was used in that photograph. Really enhances that output. Now, one of the things that you're going to immediately start to feel when you start trying to do this yourself is like, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming. I'm going to spend 5 minutes typing out this prompt, subject, and all these detailed words, and then the setting, all these detailed words I got to come up with, and then the style, all these detailed words, and I got to research camera types and lens types, and oh my gosh, artist, oh, I don't even know where to begin. Well, that's why in Magi we created the prompt enhance button, because you shouldn't have to go through all of that work every single time you want to create an image if you have a specific very specific vision in mind. So I'll go back to our cat playing cards. And you'll notice over here, there's a three little stars that pop up. If you hover over it, says enhance prompt. When you do that, our AI model is trained to take your simple prompt and expand it out and enhance it with identifying subject, setting, and style for you. So anything that you've used in that simple prompt, it's going to take it and just add more detail. And it's going to make a lot of those assumptions that the AI would make otherwise, but it's going to at least give it to you here so you can change those details. So right here it says a ginger tabby. So again, if I didn't want a ginger tabby, I wanted a black cat, I can say, or maybe I wanted a Russian blue, which is one of our cats, is a Russian blue cat. I could change that detail in the prompt before sending it off. If I didn't want it on a wooden table playing cards, maybe I could say on a poker table playing cards. All right, and I can go through all these details and see, do I need to change this? Do I need to replace that? And maybe look here, it says, oh, this is digital art. So maybe I didn't want it to be digital art. So what I can do here is I can either regenerate it with this circular arrow button. I can undo it, which didn't work. Cat playing cards. And go back to the simple one and say, simply add in a word like a photo of a cat playing card. That way, when I enhance it, it knows it wants a photorealistic style in there, and it will add all of those realistic details for me. So here we have a HDR photograph, Canon EOS 5D Mark IV with 50mm lens. I don't even know what that is, but it sounds really good. And then in the style of a candid moment captured by Elliot Erwitt, which I'm sure he is a famous photographer. And so we can run that through, and I'll use one of my favorites here, Flux. We'll do 1.1. And that all looks good. And by using these enhanced prompts, you save yourself a ton of time, and you come up with usually a much better output, especially when it comes to hyperreal stuff or specific styles like paintings and such. You really get, you really see how much it makes a difference. So I wanted to kind of, while I do this, I was going to find some examples here of some of the video generation just to kind of give examples. So give me a moment while I switch my account to my main account. And I don't know if Maya or Karen, if you would mind maybe identifying some of the questions that we have, and that way I don't have to
mention also. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was wondering,
Yeah.
Dustin, is there a way?
Okay, well, one of the questions been asked a number of times is about consistency in images.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry.
Right tab here.
Okay, about consistency in images for a storybook. So to have the same kind of subject in different scenes.
Yes. Okay, so let me share my screen again. Now that I've got the right account open. Just wanted to give quickly some examples of some of the video generated. So here is one video made by LumaRay 2. Very simple prompt. This is a majestic sunrise over a tropical island.
Yeah,
And then
okay.
there were, here was another one. Same exact prompt, just another attempt. Really great stuff. Now, character consistency, that's the sort of the industry term for getting consistent images out. It's really difficult to do because of the way that AI image models work. And so you'll notice every time you generate an image, it's a different sort of subject, even if it's the same exact prompt, because the AI is reinventing the photo every time or the image every time. It's starting with that static and just pulling from random places. Even when you do an image to image, it's still treating that input image as sort of a, it's not seeing the image the way that we see it, so to speak. It's not like taking that subject out and photoshopping it onto a new picture and maybe making some changes. It doesn't have that capability. It has to create a brand new image every time in the same way that it creates any new image. So it's really creating a brand new thing every single time it does. But there are some models, as you can see here, some of them have me in the photo and me pretty consistently throughout these photos, right? I did these for my 40th birthday. Was having a little fun. But that requires custom training. And we have a model in here called Flux LoRa. And Flux LoRa is just a fancy term for it's a custom trained image model. You take a baseline image model and then you add your own custom training to it, and it can produce characters consistent with whatever you trained it on. So the idea here is get a bunch of photos of yourself, get a bunch of photos of maybe you have a cartoon character that you drew many times, and you give the AI at least 10 different images of that character or of that subject, and then it can then be trained to recreate that subject over and over again. So you see here I have several of myself, one for my wife, and I have one of this subject named Jenny. Jenny is a fictional character. I actually had the AI generate a single image of a character, and I then duplicated that image several times to create like a total of 10 different styles and not angles. I basically flipped the image horizontally several times and then just uploaded a bunch of duplicates so that it can train on the subject named Jenny, and then I can create Jenny in a modern office. And the AI can produce Jenny over and over again consistently. And so that is how you would achieve character consistency. And this is Jenny in a modern office. And so I can kind of switch to my version. I can say, Dustin, oh, not Jenny, Dustin in a modern office. And there we would have the character consistency we're looking for. To do this in Magai, there are many apps out there that will allow you character consistency to create custom models. It's very easy in Magai. You click to train the LoRa, you give it a name and a trigger word. The trigger word is just simply how the AI will identify the subject. And we have some settings here. If you intend it to be a realistic photo version of a character, then you would select this portrait model. And these all have little explanations here that you can expand. You can create a mask just to make sure that the background is not influencing it. And then you would just set it to 2000 steps and upload a zip file of all the training images that you have. We have a whole training video on how to do this inside of Magai as well. So once it's trained, you can access it anytime, just like any other model, and create whatever you want based on that subject.
So you're saying even with just a
Excellent,
couple of
that sounds great. Okay, so that's LoRa Flux. And you can do that, presumably you could do that with sorry, Maya.
I'm getting
I don't know what's
delay
happening
here.
there. So you can do that not just with photorealistic kind of images, but you can also do that with cartoon characters.
Yeah, absolutely. Most artists, you know, cartoonists or 3D artists, they're familiar
Excellent.
with what's called a character map. So what you would want to do is get as many different poses with that character as possible. You know, a left, a right, a up, down, wide, short, you know, all as much variety as you can for that character, because the more variety that you add into the training, the more the AI model is going to be able to accurately represent that subject. And so, yeah, if you do have like a mascot or something, yeah, just get at least 10 photos, the more the better, but at least 10 in different poses. And it does a really great job. I even trained one on inanimate objects. So if you have physical products like
Okay.
coffee mugs or, you know, whatever your physical product is, you could take that same approach, get 10 different angles of that product and create a LoRa based on that product. And then you can essentially put that product in any environment whatsoever. I did an experiment with my and I took an Xbox controller from my kid's Xbox, and I just to test it out to see if it could recreate that Xbox controller in any environment, and it did a fantastic job of doing that. So a lot of applications when it comes to creating custom LoRa's, you can really do a lot with them.
Okay. So if you were to, for example, create a cartoon character using whether it be Laura or one of the other image models, you would then try and manipulate that image in some way to show different angles or different ways of looking at it, so that you could then load that into for lots.
Yeah, one of the tricks I
and
use.
and
Let me
then basically go from there. Is that right?
Yes, let
Excellent.
me. I'll see if I can bring up Jenny's original. Let's find Jenny. Okay. And that's not going to work. Let me scroll down and scroll down. Okay, here we have, okay, this is the first one I used. Here's some more examples of like a character map that I produced as I was trying to create Jenny. And so Jenny was made from this single image. You can see the prompt here was a photo of a young woman in her 20s, multiple angles, multiple views, multiple expressions. And so I took this and then I downloaded this photo. I took it into a photo editing app so I can sort of crop out each one of these frames into like an individual photo. And so I've actually got 5 here, right? So that means I have 5 different images I can use. And then what I did is I used a simple trick where I just flipped them all horizontally. So it was like the mirror image of that same photo. And then I had 10 that I could use to upload to that training. And so this person is 100% AI generated. And then I created a LoRa, custom LoRa, that was also 100% AI generated based on this, this very simple character map that I created here.
So when you say it was based on the character map, do you mean you uploaded all those images to the LoRa as well?
I hope that answers
yeah. Let me see if I can. Actually, I don't have the file that I used to do that. But essentially, yes, what I did was I like I said, took it into a photo editing software and I cropped out each one of those individual frames. And then I exported each one of those individual photos after mirroring them as well. So I had 10 total photos. And then I compressed them into what's called a zip file. And again, we have a training in Magai how to do this.
Sorry, I wasn't asking about how you trained Laura. I'm asking about how you generated Jenny in the first place. You had the character maps that looked quite from Jenny. And then you said you generated.
Sorry, there's a bit of a delay on my end. I apologize if I'm talking over you. It keeps cutting out. My internet's been a little weird all day. But yeah, so this is the exact prompt that I use. So this image was 100% AI generated based on this single prompt right here that you see. Photo of a young woman in her 20s, multiple angles, multiple views, multiple expressions. That's literally all I told the AI. And it produced this 5-frame image that you see here. And in a similar way, I was trying to do it with yeah, I made other attempts to it. So you see this one, it came up with
Excellent.
this one, and that wasn't quite what I was looking for. And it then did this one, and it was still doing these like illustrative ones, and I didn't want an illustrated character. I wanted a realistic one. So I had to try a few times. And this one was actually quite good, but again, was a little too cartoony for my needs. But when it came up with this one, it was like, oh, that's exactly it. That's exactly what I needed, and was able to get what I wanted out of it.
Someone's asking about the processing
Fabulous.
power it takes
Excellent.
to do these images.
Right, some
and
other
what
questions then. Someone's asking, oh my,
Can you still hear me?
your audio kicked out.
Oh,
Keep going.
it didn't kick out. Shut up, because I thought you were talking. Someone's asking about the eco footprint for just for entertainment's sake. Like, how bad are we being to the environment by using these AIs to generate fancy video?
I can't speak to that. I'm not a server engineer, so I don't really know how much compute these things take, or what the economic footprint of them is. So I wouldn't be able to speak to that in any degree of accuracy or reliability.
Okay, in terms of our Magi accounts, though, I'm assuming video is obviously more expensive, with images being slightly less expensive and then text being the least expensive.
Yes, so they all cost different amounts. It really kind of depends on the provider. The providers all set the cost of them. And the assumption that we have to make, because we're not sitting in their server rack rooms to see exactly how much processing power it takes. We're assuming that the more processing power it takes, the more it costs. And so that's why you'll see some video models cost a lot more. And even with last several weeks, DeepSeek, a large language model provider based out of China, has made a lot of news. And they made a lot of news because theirs was a cheaper model than OpenAI's, because they said it was more efficient. And so we can only assume that the industry is going to get more efficient over time as technology advances. Things are going to get easier, faster, require less energy to produce. And maybe hopefully there will be more transparency in that light, but as of now we just kind of have to guess. And we just assume the more they cost means the more power consumption they have. Google's Veo is probably the most expensive video producer I've ever seen. Their videos cost roughly about $1.25 to $1.50 per generated video, and that's for 5 seconds of video, whereas most of the other ones are around 30-40 cents per generated video. So you can get some pretty wild disparity in costs depending on the provider.
You had posted in your Facebook group about you were adding something that was going to make video much cheaper, or was it images? Am I letting the cat out of the bag here?
I don't recall which one that was. We are adding Veo too, and I did mention it is extremely expensive, but there are cheaper models available. Like Kling, for example, is much lower cost than Veo and produces as good, if not better, results. And so the sort of the reason we have everything in there is to give people that option to kind of choose from a cost standpoint, and have that ability to say, well, I don't want to spend most of my monthly word usage on one video. I would rather get a few videos out of it. They can kind of choose the model based on the consumption level.
And someone's asking, what model would allow you to alter an image which has already been created?
Oh, inpainting. We didn't talk about inpainting. I'm so sorry. Let's talk about that real quick, because it is a really important feature for a lot of people. Because one thing with AI that you'll find once you start generating a lot of images is you might have a photo that you really liked, but there's maybe one thing wrong. And you just wish, like, oh, if I could just take that one thing out of there. So within Magi, we have a set of tools. So we have our far right panel where you have the ability to, there's a menu here, the generate panel, the image info panel, and then your library access if you ever want to access your library. But then we have a secondary row of tools. One is in painting, the other is upscale. So if you want to increase the resolution, make it a little bit higher quality, maybe refine some of the details. You can crop your images, and you can remove the background in images if you need to remove the background. But in painting is one that most people love because, again, you have that great image that came out, but there's like one little mistake. And that's what in painting allows you to do. If you select the in painting tool, your cursor will turn into a little circle here, and you can sort of paint out an area that you want to change. And so I'll just kind of paint over this area right here. And I'll make my prompt, add a laptop. And what the AI is going to attempt to do, it's not perfect. Sometimes it gets it wrong, but it's going to attempt to take that small area that I've painted over and generate something just in that area of the image. Give it a second here. And there we go. We have a laptop, or at least an attempt at a laptop. And that's how in painting works.
That kind of looks like a laptop.
Yeah.
MacBook Pro, I would guess. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks very much like my MacBook Pro that I have sitting right here.
Very nice. Okay, what can we use this for? I've been singularly uncreative. I use it for blog posts and I use it for entertainment. What else do we use images for? Well, obviously product shots.
Yeah, product shots is a good one. Social media content is really great as well. You'd be surprised at how good these image models, especially Dolly, is really good at coming up with memes. So it'd be a great meme generator for you for social media in particular. Website imagery. So if you're building a website, a landing page, they make really great images for landing pages. If you're writing a PDF, some sort of a presentation, whether that's like a downloadable PDF or you're actually doing like a presentation on stage. I've used images generated by AI for my presentations on stage when I go speak. Really anything that you would go find stock photography for, you really don't need to do, because you can have these AI generators do it faster and oftentimes just as good and more custom to your needs than what you'd have to spend like 20-30 minutes going through a stock photo site to find that exact image. So yeah, I mean, there's really a lot that I find myself mostly doing the social media images, blog posts, and presentations, and of course website stuff too.
Do you have any opinions on, well, I'm assuming you've used this whole use HeyGen to create your avatar and then use 11 Labs for your voice clone and
I have
create
not.
videos. Oh, okay. Because
Yeah,
I've seen
so
people do it.
I do have some opinions about that. I think just like the video models, the reason I didn't put them into Magi for quite a long time is because I didn't think they were ready. I didn't find them useful. They were interesting, yes, entertaining, yes, but I would have never used them in real life. I think the state of AI avatars and AI clones is in that same place. The voice models are quite good, but they still lack a degree of human emotion. And the video models, to me, I've seen the best of the best, and maybe it's just because it's that designer's eye that I have. Like it just feels cringy to me. And it's sort of like when you watch a movie and they do CGI in there and they put a CGI character, there's that uncanny valley. It's like it looks pretty real, but there's that degree of unrealness that just takes you out of it. I feel that same way about HeyGen and the audio voice generators. It just doesn't feel good enough for me to use yet. They're pretty good, And I've seen people make entire YouTube channels based on their AI clone, and it seems to be doing pretty well. But for me personally, it just doesn't work. There's too much of an uncanny valley, and it gives me cringy vibes.
Right. Now, someone's asking a very good question. What's the advantage of putting all these tools on one platform rather than using each one individually, separately?
Well, there's a lot of advantages. Number one, you don't have to pay 15 different subscriptions.
Yeah.
Very quickly, based on all the tools that we have in Magi, I think it's over $300 a month worth of subscriptions that you would need to have. So if you don't mind burning money, sure, like no advantage really. So the number one is the cost savings. Number two is the convenience. So I'm not a big fan of having to switch 5 different tabs to go get 5 different things and compare 5 different things, or maybe have 15 different tabs open with all the different things I'm using. I'd rather have one tab and do it all in one tab. That's just much easier for me. Then there's the maintenance, where are you saving all this stuff? You generate a photo here on DALL-E, and then you generate 3 other photos on Midjourney, and then you generate a video over on Runway's app, and they're all in separate places. You have to download them, and then you have to upload them to wherever your centralized storage is. Whereas Magi, they're all stored in Magi, and they're all searchable within Magi. They're all organizable. Organizable? Is that a word? You can organize them inside of Magi. Then there's collaboration. Do you work on a team? Do you have an assistant? Do you have coworkers that you need to share stuff between each other? Having them all in one place where we do have tools where you can collaborate and share across a workspace or across a team instantly with a couple clicks. It's much easier than, again, having to pull a bunch of stuff from a bunch of fragmented different softwares and then pull it into some centralized location and then share it. Much, much easier and more convenient to have it all in one place already.
Okay, Rahil's asking if there are any discounts for Magi. I'm going to say Magi alone as it is already a steal.
It's
For
a pretty big
$19,
discount.
you're getting not every, all the good ones, all the good models that will allow Dustin to use them. I'd say that's really worth it.
Yeah, right.
And
Currently
like
we don't have any specials or sales going on, so unfortunately, no. If you are a nonprofit, we do have nonprofit discounts. If you can just show us that you have proof of a nonprofit, we do love to support the nonprofit arena, so we do have discounts for those. But apart
are
from
you
that,
on TechSoup?
I'm sorry.
Are you part of the TechSoup group of offers? Because they do a lot of nonprofit. They do a lot of they offer a lot of SaaS products to nonprofits at half price.
No, I haven't heard of TechSoup.
Okay. All the nonprofits here up in Canada do seem to use them, so thought I'd mention
Okay. I'll have to look into that.
it. Okay. Some of the
I will
direct
say this
compare.
too. We are changing our pricing soon. So right now we have some higher level plans, particularly the professional plus plans, the agency plans. We will be getting rid of those
No,
by the end of the week. We're changing our entire pricing structure. So
okay.
if you did want one of those plans that does have higher access, it has higher users, gives you more things. By the end of this week, those will no longer be available. But if you have that plan, when we switch over, you'll be able to keep that plan for life. We're never going to take a plan away from you. We're never going to force someone to get a new plan. So I will say, if you're looking for a discount, so to speak, getting one of those higher tier plans at this point will be, in the future, will look like a huge discount as we change our pricing to adjust for all the technology that we're shoving into it on a weekly basis.
Yeah. I have to say I've been impressed because almost every time I turn around, there's Dustin going, something new is being added. DeepSeek was the big shock for all of us, I think. We did not expect it. And the fact that Dustin's got it on a private server, which means you don't have to worry about all your stuff going to China. Oh, actually, someone asked about that. The images and video that we create in here, are they just for us? I know you said privacy is important to you, or will everyone on Magi get to see my images and my video?
Nope,
Okay.
privacy first. We are 100% privacy first. So everything you generate is only seeable by your eyes, only searchable by your eyes, unless you decide to share it with others. And you would have to intentionally do that through the sharing mechanism inside of Magi.
Okay. And the different models are not being trained on our images either, because obviously, again,
Correct. Yeah, we will not integrate with a model or a company that will not allow us to opt all of our users out by default to any data retention or training of future models. We will not allow it from any provider,
Got it.
which is probably why Midjourney doesn't want to work with us.
Right. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Last call, folks. Thank you, Dustin. You have been extremely generous again with your time.
No
Would
problem.
someone who doesn't know how to create a website be able to do that with the help of tools in Magi?
Large language models could teach you how to build a website. So you could use any one of the chat bots to learn basically whatever you want to learn. So yes, do we have tools that will build a website for you? No, but you can definitely learn from an LLM, pretty much anything you want to learn.
Right. Right. And do we have any assistants that are specifically for video and image in Magi?
So no assistants that are specifically geared towards that. Although, like I said, you can go into the chat and you can generate images in the chat. And we just recently released a new tool called Actions, which allows the different LLMs to be able to do things that are not just text related. So you can ask GPT-4 to generate an image using Flux, and it will generate an image using Flux for you. So you can, in a sense, have the smartest AI in the world assist you in tasks that are like image generation or video generation. So we're making steps towards giving these AI capability that lies outside of their default parameters.
And someone's already panicking. Which plans will disappear again?
The only ones we're keeping are essentially the personal and professional. And after
Okay.
this week, everything else will be gone.
Yes, I think you just motivated me to get that Agency Plus that I've been eyeing.
Yeah, it won't be available again. We're switching to a very different model. And
Yep.
we will let everybody know. So we'll send out a couple emails to give you the heads up and give you all the details. I did post the details in Facebook to give them a heads up first, but yeah, we'll send out a few emails before it happens so everybody's not taken by surprise.
So Marina, you said it sounds like it's most useful for creative people. I would actually go and watch last week's presentation because Dustin told us how to use it for non-creative people too, like the plain text stuff. If you want to do a quick potted, 2-minute summary, Dustin, 2 minutes out of a one hour video.
Yeah, I mean, one of the great things about LLMs is if you're not creative, they help you to be creative. They can be your creative partner just by simply saying, I need to create this. Can you help me? And they do a great job of giving you ideas, brainstorming with you. Even our prompt enhance button, it's powered by an LLM that's been trained on image prompts. And so it's effectively helping you be creative with your word choices, with architecting prompts. So if it can do that, it can virtually help you with any creative task, as long as that task is only needs text, right? So if you're not a good writer, it can help you be a better writer. If you're not good at coming up with ideas, it can help you come up with ideas.
There was one other question I saw in here that I am missing. Shoot.
So question about images generated in Magi can be used for commercial purposes? Yes. So all of the images you generate are yours to use as you please. There are no limitations on them. Legally, you cannot copyright an AI generated image. That is still kind of up in the air, but for most legal experts will agree that there's no copywriting. But Magi has no rights on anything that you create or generate inside of Magi. Use it as you please, and that is our agreement with all of our AI model providers as well. That they are anything created from Magi and by Magi users is available for commercial use.
All right. I know I'm missing a few questions. If anyone didn't get answered, do you want to drop them in here quickly? Because
Someone
we
has
are running.
asked, yeah, someone, can you hear me now?
Yes, there's a large delay though.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Someone asked, what are the main
Seems like you're coming in and out, and it seems like there's a really long delay from when you start talking. We can see you in real time, but your voice comes like 20 seconds later. Technology, huh? It's great when it works, and when it doesn't work, it's just like, what do I do?
Right.
Guys, I
Hey,
do have
what
to
would you-
run. I have a hard stop here at quarter after. I do have another meeting I have to run to, but if you have any questions, please send them my way. Happy to answer them after the fact and jump into, Facebook or whatever to answer them for you. Our team is available through an in-app support widget, so you can send your questions there as well. And I'm at Dustin W. Stout on all the social things, so you can pretty much find me anywhere. But I do have to run, guys. Thank you so much for letting me share. And if you ever want me to come in again and teach, I'm happy to do it because it seems like a great bunch and you guys are doing great work. So
Thank you.
I'll
And
say
thank you
ta-ta
so
for
much for your.
now.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye, guys.